into night that it turned into day. And after her family disowned her on Sunday, this boy and this girl started there like anew. The baby inside would say, hey, what you doing? I've been thinking about you. When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah. We'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer and the boys will shout. The ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Get ready for the Jubilee, hurrah, hurrah. We'll give the hero 3 times 3, hurrah, hurrah. The laurel wreath is ready now to place upon his loyal brow, and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. In 1861, hurrah, hurrah, that was when the war begun, hurrah, hurrah. In 1862, both sides were falling to, and we'll all drink stone wine when Johnny comes marching home. In 1863, hurrah, hurrah, old lady ended slavery.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Sorry.
Holy.
Didn't mean to is that too low now?
That's better.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this special episode of Addressing Gettysburg today. It's just me, no Bethany or anything like that. We don't need other people when it's me and Jason Martz from the Gettysburg National Military Park, the communications specialist, right?
That is correct, sir.
I didn't have to write it down this time.
No, you're getting it. I think
I
that
looked
may have
it up
been
yesterday.
I think that may have been a burn to Bethany, though.
Oh, no, never.
That was...
We don't. All I'm saying. Normally, I need Bethany,
Mm-hmm.
but today I don't need Bethany because you are
Okay.
you are that strong a guest.
Goodness gracious, that's... No pressure.
And when you're done texting people, I
No.
will be happy to start
Just
the show.
Go right ahead.
but
I'm
for
just
those of
pulling
you-
up web pages that I know we're going to be talking
For
about.
those of you watching, at home, though, we are going to take your calls. If you want to call in, the number is 717-420-1978. Give us a call. Towards the end of the show is when I'm going to take the calls. So you don't have to call in right now, but at some point during the show, give us a call. Get in the queue. I'll go through them, clear them out. Boom, boom, boom. Be quick, be pithy, and be smart about it. Whatever that means. All right, Jason. So you have a bunch of things that you want to update us on. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what's new in Gettysburg National Military Park?
Fantastic. First of all, thanks for having me again.
Always a pleasure.
Happy to be here.
A lot of fun.
We want to really spread the word about the big event coming up at Eisenhower National Historic Site here in a couple weeks. September 20, 21, and 22 is their big annual event. It's called World War II Weekend, and it's over 3 days, over the course of 3 days. The Friday evening is a special program at the Museum and Visitor Center. It's in one of the theaters. If anyone's familiar, it's just going to be just like a one of the winter lectures.
Okay.
But it'll be more of a conversation between one of the staff at Eisenhower, Dan Vermiglia, and a gentleman by the name of Henry Sledge. If the last name Sledge feels
Just
a little
bought his
bit
dad's
familiar.
book.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Eugene Sledge is his father, so he's going to be talking about all of his.
He was actually in here. Not Eugene, Henry.
Henry?
Eric Dorr brought him over the other day,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I went out and got his dad's book. Never read it, but now I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll be the keynote speaker on Friday evening. There are tickets that are required, but they're free.
Okay.
All the
So you just got
information.
to register.
All the information's on the website. Yeah, it works again. Basically, just like the winter lecture, you get a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
You guarantee a seat,
Nice.
but it's free.
Okay. So that won't be out at the Eisenhower. That's the one.
No.
Is that the only thing that won't be out at the Eisenhower?
No, there will be actually a series of all kinds of programs going on throughout both parks, but mainly at Eisenhower.
Okay.
The big draw at Eisenhower, typically every year for the World War II weekend, is the big living history encampment. Yeah. And of course, we're going to have those folks here again this year. One of the things that we're going to continue with this year that we had really great response to last year was actually guided tours of the camp. And the staff out there have done a really good job in basically bringing all of that information to the forefront. And so instead of just feeling like just kind of wandering around, checking things out and talking to some folks, you actually really get into the weeds.
Right.
And what the staff has situated for this year is that they have a lot of the camp representatives, the living history folks, that are going to actually be fully engaged in these programs. So it's not just going to be the ranger talking about this camp and this camp and this camp. They represent so and so and so. But when the group arrives in front of a given camp, those folks are going to take over and talk about what they represent, some of the stories.
So the ranger's
so
basically
forth.
leading them around from camp to camp and then letting the living historians take over.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch.
It is.
Yeah.
And
that was last year was the first time they did that?
Yeah, the first year we tried that was last year, and it wasn't quite as involved, but we're taking another step based on the success that we had last year.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then what else?
The other big thing is there's some really fantastic family activities that are going on for kids of all ages, basically.
Okay.
But what it is it's an activity booklet. And you'd go around and you have the opportunity to do 5 different activities around the camps. And again, certain camp members are involved very specifically with this. So the folks who are engaged in this activity book can go around and see just exactly which camp to go check out. And once they complete each of the 5 activities, like Eisenhower's 5-star generals. See where we're going with this?
Clever.
They then get to come back over to what we're calling the family tent. And we actually have a legit historic working dog tag machine.
Oh, neat.
And the kids can have a dog tag made.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Can the adults? I hope.
Maybe. But it's definitely organized specifically with the kids in mind.
Yeah, no, that's good. Adults like that too because then it keeps the kids busy, right?
Oh, and it's a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I think beginning with what we did last year and the success that we had last year with really getting the visitors integrated and involved with the camp members themselves.
Right.
That nexus. We're looking to take to the next level, and this should be a lot of fun.
I always say to people that they should do, like, whoever it is, when you're doing some kind of program, just because everybody in the crowd's an adult doesn't mean it's not fun to stand in line and charge each other. You know, it works. Like we did that on one of our tours once where we had we split the group up into 3, and they each were a different Vermont regiment. And Lewis got them maneuvering the way the Vermont Brigade did and everything. And, people seem to enjoy it. Nobody can stay in line.
No.
But it's fun.
It's impossible for the present day adult to follow those kinds of directions.
Really can't.
It's very
really
complicated.
simple. Just stay in line.
No, it's very complicated.
Clearly. It is. But anyway,
Yeah.
the point is that adults like those things that we usually reserve for kids. And I think more people would be into history if we did more interactive things like that.
Right.
So I'm glad to see that the Park Service is doing that, because that works. It works.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's a child in an adult body nowadays.
Absolutely.
Right?
You have to be.
Our brain, we haven't gotten past I haven't gotten past 14 years old. I'm still as mature as I was back then. So things like that work for me.
You said it, not me.
Okay, what else?
Yeah, so in addition to that, the Eisenhower home will be open for tours over the course of all day Saturday and Sunday. There are going to be additional speakers throughout the weekend as well. So there'll be a big tent out in the yard in front of the house, as there was last year, where folks can come in and out of the sun, take a load off, and really get into some of the details and get into the weeds of some of the folks who are really experts on the subject. And the subject matter, by the way, is we're sticking with the kind of the 80th anniversary of, and then fill in the blank. So last year was the 80th anniversary of the 1943 European campaign. This year it's 1944. So the living historians who are going to be here are going to be very specifically talking and coordinating with, if you will, everything 1944.
Now, on the battlefield, you'll have artillery or infantry demonstrations where they'll fire off some rounds of stuff. Are we doing things like that too at the Eisenhower for
No.
World War II weekend?
No live fire, but they will have all of their weapons.
Okay.
So
you can see what
you can see everything,
Yeah.
but there's no live fire.
Okay. Is there a reason for that?
That's a good question.
Like why one, not the other?
I'll get back to you. I get back to you next month about that one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But then you also said, are things going to be happening everywhere? And my answer was yes. There'll also be tours in the Gettysburg National Cemetery, specifically dealing with the World War II internments, and specifically those for 1944.
Now, are those ranger led or guide led or both?
I think these are just ranger led.
Okay.
But there have been licensed battlefield guides involved in the past, but I don't think that's happening this year.
All right. What else?
So that's the big thing. Again, all of this is taking place September 20, 21, and 22, Friday evening, and then Saturday 9 to 5, and Sunday 9 to 3. And the other note that I want to make here is that Eisenhower, the entire site will be closed to the public on Friday, the 20th.
Okay.
And that is simply for safety. As all of the living history groups come in and are moving around with all the vehicles coming and going, we have found that safety is a little more difficult to keep a good hold on and maintain if, in fact, the site is open that day. So the site will be closed to the general public Friday, September 20th for all the setup.
That's good to know because people would want to go there and then they can't. But then is it open at night? Is because you said it was the 20th through the 22nd. So is it just for visitors on the 21st and 22nd, and the 20th is when the reenactors show up, or will it open in the evening for people to come by and gawk at the camps?
Right. No, the site, Eisenhower National Historic Site, will be closed to the public all day.
All day.
On the 20th, Friday the 20th. That's for the move-in for the living history. The evening program on the 20th is taking place at the Gettysburg Museum and Visitor Center.
Got it.
In the theater.
Okay.
With the tickets.
Got it.
That are free.
Good.
Then Saturday and Sunday, Eisenhower is open 9 to 5. Saturday, 9 to 3 on Sunday.
Good.
Yeah.
That should be interesting. Can you believe I've never gone to a World War II weekend?
This year's going to be your first, right?
I would like to. Yeah, I would like to. We're in the middle of buying a house. God knows what the hell's going to happen.
But that not on Saturdays and Sundays.
Oh, believe me, it has taken up 2 months of my time. My whole summer has been house. It's a nightmare.
House period.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's World War II weekend. We had some good news with the what is this? The 2023 Economic Impact Report?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that information actually came out late last week on a national scale. Finally, because of the long Labor Day weekend, I didn't have a chance to get to it for Gettysburg and Eisenhower until today. And yeah, we put out a press release about that late this afternoon, and that information is available on our website. And the numbers that are available via this yearly study across the entire National Park Service has discovered some fantastic numbers, some fantastic information about what visitor spending is in the Gettysburg area, kind of the General Adams County area. And on behalf of both Gettysburg and on behalf of Eisenhower, this is what visitors spent in 2023. But it's not just about what they spend, it's also how many jobs essentially are created by those visitors who are coming in, whether they be hotels, restaurants, you name it. But then it's also cumulative to not just what the visitors are spending, but let's say those visitors are spending money at hotels and B&Bs and restaurants and shops. Well, those employers then are paying their employees to work in those restaurants, B&Bs, shops, restaurants. And then those individuals who are getting paid then go out and buy groceries and pay rent and all of these other things that keep money basically within the local community. And so we have a visitor spending number and we have a cumulative number. And you've got that actually right in your hands.
Yeah, I'll read them to you.
Please.
So, a new National Park Service report shows that 742,000 visitors to Gettysburg National Military Park and 98,000 visitors to Eisenhower National Historic Site in 2023 spent $61.4 million in communities near the park. That spending supported 734 jobs in the local area and had a cumulative benefit to the local economy of $88.5 million. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So we're really happy to see numbers like that because of the economic impact that the parks actually do have on the local economy. And we're part of the local economy too. So this is basically, park staff are involved in those numbers as well.
So what kind of shocks me though is the number of visitors to Gettysburg National Military Park, 742,000. It used to be higher. Yeah, like a lot. What do we think is going on?
That's a great question. I don't know. A couple years ago we could easily point and say, oh, the pandemic did that.
Yeah.
COVID did that. In the meantime, are we still working on getting those visitors back? And we heard it on a lot of social media, and I'm sure you did too, that for the time frame that Little Round Top was closed, a lot of people were putting off visits
coming back
to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with
it. Let's hope.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because when I moved here in 2005, the number then I want to say was 1.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that was down from the peak of 2 million that the movie, so
Right.
I was coming in as the movie people were starting to stop visiting or slow down in the visiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to say when I moved back here in 2018, we were just around 1 million. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it's not like we're drastically going down in the last few years. It's just a couple 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with 1 million, a couple 100,000 is a lot.
Yeah.
And I wonder what we can do. I feel like it might be. It's not that people aren't interested in national parks.
No.
Because they love national parks.
Yes.
Is it the history that maybe turns people off? We're so close to DC. And Baltimore, and Philly, Pittsburgh, it's not like it's not Little Bighorn. We're not in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
We're near I think we're in the middle of a population of like 60 million people.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? And you may not have the answer to this. Maybe the question's not being asked in the Park Service, but what is the cause of this? Are other parks seeing a drop like this?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. I think it depends on the park. I think it depends on basically the whims, the changing winds, if you will, of, well, I want to go see such and such park, or I saw such and such park on such and such show, or movie, or whatever. And there are ebbs and flows. There's certainly things, everyone has one of these,
Yeah.
or at least one. And there are just so many other things that when you moved here, there weren't as many other options in the Gettysburg area. When you look at all the agritourism
Yes.
that has cropped up.
Oh God. Is that what they teach you in?
That's part of the test. Yeah.
You gotta have good puns. If you're gonna be a communication specialist, you have to have good puns.
You have to.
Well, it helps.
But in all seriousness, there's so many different things within the Gettysburg and Adams County area that bring people to the area that isn't necessarily so historic.
Yeah, so like all those visitors have been farmed out to other things.
Good one.
Yeah, not as good as yours though.
Wow, that was good.
It was a stretch there.
No.
Okay, so other things, and I do agree with you because anecdotally, that's all I have to go on. It seems to me that sometimes I'll like drive around the park, and not a lot of people milling about. Town, on the other hand, is hopping, and I'm not talking about like 6 o'clock at night. I'm talking middle of the day on Saturday.
Yeah,
and I do think like the tastes of the public are kind of shifting, or maybe not even shifting away from this. They still like it, but they're embracing other things because there are more things to do here. Like you're right, compared to 2005 when I first came here, the old. So like, let's see, I was in 27. And so I was coming up as the, people who maybe started their business in the late 60s, early 70s, are now retiring, dying off, handing the business over to youngsters or, their kids or whatever. And that era of tourist attractions hadn't either, I hate to use the term died off, but either died off or evolved into something else.
I think the word evolved is probably the best one I would think to use.
So evolved. And now, now I'm middle-aged and, I'm looking and I'm seeing all these new businesses opening up, and they're younger people in their 30s and they're not necessarily history related. A lot of alcohol. You got your breweries, your distilleries, right. And I ain't complaining. And food related, right? But and agricultural. There are other interests that are being catered to in this area that weren't before.
Right.
It used to just be the battle. That was it. Yep. Everywhere you went, the battle. Now you have stores on Baltimore Street around the square, nothing to do with the battle. Right?
Yeah.
So the tastes of the public are changing. I still think the only reason anybody's ever heard of this place is because of the battle. So we need to...
That very well could be where the conversation still starts.
Yeah.
That you hear of Gettysburg, you know about Gettysburg because of what happened here. But that may not necessarily be the thing that holds your interest for 2, 3, 4 days, a week at a time. You may do that for a few of those days or partial days, but still do lots of other things.
Yeah.
But again, to know that we have that kind of influence, even today,
sure,
compare and contrast with years past, it's something that we're very happy to be able to say and work with everyone in the community and know that we're really all on the same ship, and that the high tides,
a rising tide lifts all ships.
Lifts all ships. So that's how we feel about it.
Yeah, and look, I just realized it probably seemed like I just rained on your parade by going, but there's not as many visitors. But I just noticed this number, and it kind of struck me, so I'm asking you about it. It is still a good report.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm just saying,
absolutely. This is definitely something that we think is worth celebrating, and we think is worth quite a bit as far as the general public and as far as but especially for the businesses and shops and the local folks here.
And this is really, this $88.5 million correct me if I'm wrong. Well, that's the cumulative. Well, yeah, either way. This is what the Park Service can figure based on the visitors they can track.
Mm-hmm.
They're not tracking the people that aren't coming through the park or the visitor center, right?
Right.
So there could be more people coming here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah. So I mean, but it's still all good news. All right, very good. We got that good news out of the way. What else? Any bad news?
What else is on your list?
You wanted to do fall schedule of programs and looking forward to the winter lectures.
Yeah. So I talked to everyone's favorite Ranger, Chris Gwynn, earlier today.
Good. How is Chris today?
Chris is doing well.
Good.
Doing well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Everyone enjoyed a little bit of a long weekend, and we're back at it.
Good.
Today.
So even Chris got off this weekend.
A little bit.
Good.
We all got off. Just an extra day.
All right. Who was running the ship?
We don't know. Chris's staff is fantastic, and law enforcement. No, everyone's.
Yeah.
We're a 7-day operation, 7-day-a-week operation, except for Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving. But there's always at least someone here.
Yeah. So don't go getting any ideas.
Yeah. No, don't go getting any ideas.
Definitely law enforcement is here.
They're watching.
Yeah.
They know. But no, Chris wanted to stress that we are in the fall Ranger schedule right now that runs through October. That includes battle walks. That includes campfire programs. The Wills House is still open. So we're still doing plenty of programming. Again, the popular stuff that is kind of the off, kind of out of the way stuff, the battle walks and the campfires. But then he also wanted me to stress that we are in fact looking ahead to the winter lectures and doing those again this winter.
Good. Hopefully with addressing Gettysburg is what he means.
I'm sure that's what he meant.
Well, that's what he said in the meeting we had, so I'm pretty sure.
Well, then go with that.
I haven't heard otherwise,
I think
that's what we're going with still.
Go with that, Matt.
Okay. Now, on the subject of Ranger walks, I've noticed this year, and a lot of them were due to heat, but there have been a lot of cancellations of programs. Mm-hmm. One, I feel like it was last week, and it wasn't very hot. What was the reason for that? Do you remember?
Okay, so what we pay attention to, and what we've been paying attention to over the past couple years, and this really actually started to pop up during battle anniversary, but we for safety reasons we've expanded it throughout the entire summer season. So if there's a thunderstorm watch, if there's a thunderstorm warning, those will kick in. If there are heat indices up to a certain level, things are modified. If heat indices go higher than that, they can be canceled.
Okay.
So we're talking, or really what we're coming down to here is visitor and employee safety.
Okay.
So to keep everyone out of harm's way, whether it be the heat and humidity, which is a thing.
Sure it is. Yes, it is.
And the afternoon thunderstorm is also a thing.
Yeah.
For those who remember a couple battle anniversaries ago, on July 2nd,
tornado.
We had our a big group of folks from the Liberty Rifles who came in to
portray the first Minnesota,
and we got
beautifully, by the way,
wicked thunderstorm that came kind of out of nowhere, and that's one of those events where when it happens and you get through it and you get through it safely, you look around and say, okay, we did a good job, but yeah, we need to do that even better. And so how can we do that? Everything's tied to the National Weather Service. So we're basically taking our cues from what those folks are saying.
The if you're certain parts of the battlefield north of the Round Tops, like along Hancock Avenue or something, and you look down at Big Round Top, you'll see it's missing a tooth at the top. Like there's a big, just a space right at the top where it used to come to a beautiful tree-lined point. Now there's it's like a gap tooth look that it's got there, and that's from that tornado.
Yeah,
I remember because
we had a ton of trees down as a result of that.
That was interesting. And you know what's funny? I slept through that whole thing. I was out there filming with the Liberty Rifles that day.
How does that happen?
Because it was hot as blazes that day. It was extremely hot. And I was coming down with something, I don't know, cold or whatever. And it was really taking the snot out of me. And so there was a break between what we finished filming with them and their demonstration that they were going to do, their reenactment of the charge. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go home and just like lay in front of the air conditioner for a bit and cool off and take some medicine. And I fell asleep and I slept through the whole thing. Didn't wake up till like 7 o'clock with all these text messages. Where the hell are you? I missed the whole thing. I was just out of it, and the heat got me down. So I couldn't believe it because I love a good storm in the summer. Yeah. Oh, how I love a good storm in the summer. But I missed that one, and I'm very disappointed to this day.
But that's why.
Okay.
If you're seeing programs being canceled or programs being modified, that's why. It's got thunderstorm watch warning or heat indices. Going up to a certain level, programs will get modified, so shorten, stay in the shade, things like that. Or if it goes even higher to another level, they get canceled altogether.
Couldn't the park get like some of those like water tanker trucks and just spray people, like keep it going, let the walk go on, but just drive by and give everybody a good spritz,
kind of like
cool everybody down.
Kind of like at SeaWorld when the whale.
It's similar.
When the dolphins
similar. Yeah. It's a gentle, cool spritz.
We'll put that on the to-do list, Matt, and we'll get back to you.
Might be able to get Congress to give you a little extra money for that next year. Just a thought. Okay. All right. And then, I must know, and I think everybody's curious. Vandalism.
Yeah.
Now, what the heck has been going on there? We had some scratching on a boulder on Little Round Top, right?
Yes, correct.
We had some spray paint on the Oak Ridge Tower.
Yep.
And then something went missing from the Timbers farm.
Yes.
And something happened down at the Benner farm.
Benner barn. Yep.
Now, this all didn't happen recently. The scratching and the vandalism, the spray paint did, but the other things, these are things that we've learned about in the last month since you've been on.
Yep.
Give us as much detail as you can. I believe when the story came out about the Benner farm and the Timbers farm, I had sent you an email asking you some questions, and I read it on that night's AG Today because I liked your answer. I said, well, how come if this happened in the winter, we're only hearing about it now? And you said, because contrary to what television tells us, crimes are not solved in an hour. And so,
that's a true statement.
It's true. And then
that's not a pun. That's fact.
That's a fact. You were just reminding me of what an idiot I can be or am. And then the second answer I forget what the second question was. But anyway, give us as much information as you have to give about. Let's go back to the winter, the Benner farm, Timbers farm. Can you tell us at this point what actually happened out there?
No.
Okay. All right. And then since you can't tell us that, can you give us any information? Have you learned anything? Have you gotten any tips, any clues? Suspects, persons of interest.
Not that I'm aware of.
Has any information come in? Not that you're aware of.
Not that I can say publicly.
The public wants to help you.
We understand.
What information can you give them so that they know at least which direction to look in?
No, we understand why this is frustrating. But the issues with both the Benner barn and the Timbers farm deal with a long time of investigating and going down a particular road. And going down that particular road may take a couple months, only to get at the end of the road and now there's a dead end and you have to turn around and go back.
Yes, and that's the worst.
And then try a different road.
Right.
And so you do that a couple times.
Which is how investigations go.
Which is how the real world works, strangely enough.
In the hour TV drama, maybe that happens once, but then they get on the right path.
Or it's like a one of two-parter.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's like a 2-hour special.
Drag it out.
but yeah, if essentially what we're asking is if anyone has information about either of those incidents, please reach out to us.
Sure.
If you don't have information, that's okay. We understand.
Don't call and say, I don't have information,
Right,
though.
right.
That's a waste of everybody's time.
But saying too much would actually be detrimental
Sure.
to the case. And so that's the difference. And that isn't, we understand why that's a frustration because we know that you guys want to help. And if it was as simple as saying this happened here and this happened there, but we can't. It really is per law enforcement rule. You know, they don't want to, as part of the investigation. There's only so much that we can say.
Do they not even tell you guys?
Typically, no.
Right, because loose lips sink ships, so they can't tell you guys.
Right.
Because let's be honest, nothing stays secret in this town.
Yeah, very, very few details leave the law enforcement circle. It's a very
smart.
tight-lipped operation, just like really any law enforcement office entity would be. So,
all right.
So we're not doing anything any differently than the state police would do.
No, you hear this all the time.
Or local police. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not that. This is how legitimate law enforcement.
They're not messing with
work.
you guys. Aren't messing with us. This is. I mean, we've all seen the press conferences with the chief of police or the lead detective, and they ask a question. He goes, "Well, this is an ongoing investigation. I can't answer that right now."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, but that's what we need to know. How we're going to help you. So basically, what you're saying is, if you heard people bragging about what they did or trying to sell something or whatever, that's a tip that maybe you should share with the park. What's the number they would call to help out with that?
That information's on our website. It's in those press releases on our website. Yep.
So go to the park's website, which good luck finding it. Because it's not like Gettysburg. It's like you've got to go, what is it, nps.gov/get?
GETT.
Yeah, GETT.
And then there are 3 different tabs across the top. No, they're not tabs, but they're highlights.
Yeah, things.
The middle one is called Learn About the Park. And that drop down brings you to news. And it's within news.
See?
Where the news where the press releases live.
This is why I said that. It's a complicated site.
That's why I'm here. We are uniform across the entire National Park Service.
It's not just you guys.
No,
I understand that. It's the National Park Service.
For 431 different websites, they're all the same, so that visitors.
There's millions of people confused about using the website.
So that visitors
don't feel singled out.
They're equally confused across all parks across all the whole country.
Okay, so the latest stint of vandalism, and you were on the news for this. I watched the clip on YouTube, so we were a little more forthright with the information here because it's in plain sight.
Right.
You have somebody scratched, Johnny Loves Chachi or Joni Loves Chachi or whatever the show was called.
Happy Days, you got it.
Yeah, I said Johnny at first, and on a boulder, but it was more than that. It was a lot of stuff just scratched on a boulder. We think with what, a rock, like another rock.
Yeah. After investigation, it looked like it was rock
Scratching.
Somebody used a rock, something handheld, and scribed things into a boulder because it wasn't as deep as we thought.
Okay.
Which is what we really feared.
Right.
We really feared that this was deep and that this would be here for years.
Right.
And it turns out our folks are this good. They were able to work through it and basically a little more to it than that. But the next day, actually that was a few days later. But by the 20th of August, we discovered the boulder scratch, the boulder vandalism on the 15th.
Okay.
And we discovered the
spray
paint at Oak Ridge Observation Tower on the 19th.
Okay.
By the 20th, both of them were taken care of.
Now, the spray paint is interesting because apparently there were places around town or on the college campus that also had that.
Correct.
And we read in the news on last week's AG Today that they have a person from Fairfield, I believe, who is believed to have done it. They gave a name, and I can't remember the name, but it doesn't matter. Was it just some goofy random thing, or is it? It's such a strange thing to do, and there's a symbol involved with it. Tell us what you know about that story, because that's interesting to me.
As far as that story is concerned, I think what you've seen in the news is as much as I know.
Oh, okay. So nobody really knows more than that.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who know a lot more, but here again, it's an active investigation, and whatever information could be released at that time is out there. And if anyone's interested, you can go, I'm sure, look it up, do a little search. But once the scenario within the park was addressed, and our park law enforcement, our protection staff, began working with local Gettysburg law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
They're working on it collaboratively because, it was both in the park at the Oak Ridge Tower. It was also on the Gettysburg College campus and in the borough. So borough police have jurisdiction over the college, and the borough, we have jurisdiction over the park. Those two entities are working together, and whatever's out in the public view is out there per the news. And that really is what I know about that.
Okay.
Our concern was, at least in the short term, was making sure that the resource damage wasn't as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turned out to be that it wasn't nearly as bad as we had first feared, and that something like paint on a painted structure,
it's easy to...
we tried a couple things first before we repainted over it, but we realized after a couple tries going down this road and this road that the best thing to do was just to paint over top of it, and done.
Did you ever see The Naked Gun? Leslie Nielsen?
Yeah, a long time ago. And if
Okay,
you're
you
going
might
to
not-
reference something, I'm probably not
You probably
gonna know
won't
it.
remember it.
Uh-uh.
Well, real fans of The Naked Gun, you know what I'm talking about with the spray paint deterrent. I think what you do...
Uh-oh. Is this... Do I have to actually close my ears here, Matt?
No. I think all
as,
you got to
as a
do...
representative of the federal government, do I have to...
Hey, they might like this idea. All you do is you got to install some nozzles into the wall. That spray paint, they sense the paint being sprayed on and spray other paint back.
Oh, I love
And then when you see somebody running around with like a red face or an orange face or whatever, you know that guy just spray painted the Oak Ridge Tower.
Is this like the what they put in money bags?
Yeah,
so that when
it's the same principle.
Bank robbers,
the die packs,
the die packs,
yes.
and they blow up and
you get it.
Oh, obviously you may have robbed a bank.
Yes. Oh, sir, you've got purple spray paint on your face. Did you spray paint the Longstreet Tower?
No.
All right. Then you're just walking around with purple spray paint on your face. All right. Now, the vandalism, though, I know it happens all the time, right? Doesn't always make the papers.
Right.
Is there an uptick in it, though? Or are we just having an uptick in paper or reports in the papers about vandalism in the park this year?
Yeah, I think it just was happenstance, just circumstances that led us to that. Our law enforcement said we are now in a place to be able to release some of this information to the public, looking for the public's help for the Benner Barn and the Timbers Farm. So that just happened to be that those two investigations kind of got to a logical place to take that next step where we then bring it to the public's attention.
Right.
And then, oh, by the way, these other two happened, 2 or 3 weeks later, something like that. So no,
it's just a coincidence.
Coincidence only.
Yeah.
There's it's not that it's an uptick, but we do ask, for every, where's my camera?
You're
there
right
it is.
here.
For everyone out there, please, if you see something, say something. Don't just put it on social media on a random page and not tell us about it, because that's happened.
Yeah.
That we find out about something in the park by looking on some of these social media pages that are very Gettysburg centric, and that's not helping us. We're asking for you, the public. We're asking for your help, and I'm being Matt's making me laugh, but I'm trying to be as serious as realistically possible. We need your help. We can't be everywhere at once, 24/7, 365. We know that there are so many more eyes out there who also care about these places and would do anything, basically, maybe almost anything, to make sure that they're maintained and preserved for generations to come. But again, we can't do it ourselves. We really do need the public's help. So if you see something, please tell us.
I have a question about that. I've always wondered, if I see something in the park that I need to report to the Popo, do I have to call a park service number, or can I call 911, or how does that work?
I think it really depends on the situation.
Okay.
So for instance, if you see somebody in the act of scribing a boulder,
right,
go ahead and call 911, because 911 is the best single
3-digit number.
Not only 3-digit number, but everyone in Gettysburg is connected to 911.
Okay.
Every layer of law enforcement, every layer of fire department, every layer of EMT, ambulance service, they're all hooked up to 911. So when the 911 call goes out, it's possible that maybe it's not a National Park Service law enforcement ranger who shows up first.
Right.
It might be a
might
borough.
be like Cumberland Township.
It might be Cumberland
borough,
Township. It might be Pennsylvania State Police. But someone in a uniform who is law enforcement commissioned, they're going to show up and be able to take care of a situation. So if it's an emergency, if it's a health issue, somebody is clearly having, heart issues or whatever, someone has fallen, broken a wrist, those are emergencies. Go right to 911. Don't even think about it.
Okay.
Beyond that, if it's something that you've discovered and you look around and there's no one out there, it's just you and the crickets and the ticks. There is a park information number for that, and I believe it's 334-8114.
Okay.
But I'd have to double check on that one. Don't take that one to the bank. But yes, there is a local number for the law enforcement office, but it's not emergency.
So let's see. Gettysburg National Military Park Police. Or would it be law enforcement?
I'll give that a try.
All right. The dead will rise. That's the first thing that came up, is the vandalism thing.
Yeah.
All right. Law enforcement officer honored. Right. Okay. So let me put this phone number. And let's see. And this is why I asked, because there was a time years ago that I had to call law enforcement, and it wasn't a quick Google search, but it wasn't a 911 thing. So I didn't want to tie up 911. I knew I could always call that, but it wasn't. So I just said, I don't know if this is the number or not. And I just let it go.
Right.
And I think a lot of people might, because we're Americans, we want things to be quick and easy and convenient. And when it's not that way, so like a simple thing here, U.S. Park Ranger Station, 57 Town Road, 334-0909. Does that sound right?
That's it.
09. Okay.
That's the one.
So the number for that is 717-334-0909. If you're a frequent visitor to Gettysburg, save it in your phone.
Yeah.
Gettysburg National Military Park Law Enforcement. That's it.
That would basically be your immediate connection to National Park Service law enforcement staff at the local level here for Gettysburg and Eisenhower. That would not be an emergency. If it's an emergency, don't even think about it. Go straight to 911.
Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, call in if you have any questions. We've got one more topic here, and I've got a voicemail that I'm going to play from a listener who couldn't watch live tonight. But here's my question now. I was very surprised to find out. I was not embarrassed, but I was surprised to find out that fly fishing, or any fishing, is not illegal within the boundaries of Gettysburg National Military Park. Now you ask, why, Matt? Were you surprised to find that out? And the answer that I have is because, to me, that is a recreational activity. And Gettysburg has made it very clear that we are not a recreational park. You cannot rollerblade, you cannot hoverboard, you cannot skateboard, you cannot do, there's a million things that you cannot do. You can't even have a picnic.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a picnic at a designated picnic area.
Mm-hmm.
But I can pull over, go to my trunk, get a fishing pole, and as long as what?
As long as you have a valid Pennsylvania fishing license.
Now, would that also apply to, does Pennsylvania have reciprocity with their fishing licenses with other states?
I don't know.
Like a firearms license, or driver's license? Okay, so that's
okay,
something we don't know
that's out of my purview. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the answer. If you have a valid Pennsylvania fishing license, you can fish in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that video that I put up, we're driving around. I see a guy fly fishing. We were driving up Wheatfield Road, and I look over and I see this guy fly fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that guy's fly fishing. Turn around. So we turn around, and I get a video because I'm thinking, man, these beavers. Like, now we got people fly fishing. This is like the 80th person I've seen fishing in Lake Crawford. And I want to get a video of it and show everybody. And it went, viral. At the last I checked, it had like 45,000 views or something like that. Like, and 30 something thousand of them were in a 24-hour period. Like, it went everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody commented in there. He said the compendium, or I don't remember. Is it the compendium? I always get these things confused.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about fishing. And then somebody went in further and said, yeah, as long as you have a valid license. It totally makes sense. I think people should be able to fish. However, to me, it seems with a park that is so concerned about the impression of recreation,
mm-hmm.
or being a recreational park, and now with this big lake, which is very inviting for somebody who likes to fish, I'm sure, and there are fish in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know what the park's reaction is going to be if more people start doing that, and there's 5 or 6 or 8 guys around the lake fishing on a Sunday afternoon. Like, will there be a point where they're going to say, okay, I know this is legal, we got to change something here because this is now becoming,
mm-hmm.
The pier at the Jersey Shore or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, sir, let's start with the validity of being able to do the fishing in the first place.
Okay.
Let's start there. So the waterways in the state of Pennsylvania belong to the state of Pennsylvania. Hard stop. Okay. We do not have jurisdiction over the waterways.
Right.
Okay. So if you have a valid Pennsylvania fishing license and you're not, let's say, maybe on private property in Gettysburg National Military Park and Eisenhower National Historic Site, are as public as you can get. As long as you have that license, you can fish in any body of water that you want to. That's really the end of it. Now, because that's a Pennsylvania state law, that may not be the case in Colorado,
right,
or Florida, or adjacent here to us, maybe Maryland or Virginia. But that's the case in Pennsylvania.
Can I, and I'm not sure if this is a
go.
pushback, but can I say that you don't have jurisdiction over the water?
Right.
You do have jurisdiction over the land.
Yes.
So that man is standing on the land
Mm-hmm.
when he is doing that activity. Let's go to, now this isn't apples to apples, but you'll see my point, I think. Drones. You cannot fly a drone from the national park land.
Right.
But drones can be flown over the national park if the operator is off the property.
Essentially, they can take off.
We don't recommend you do this. I'm not saying you should do this.
Okay, so you're bringing up a whole other.
Oh no, I know that.
Worms
but
here.
what I'm saying is, the park is saying, essentially, the government is saying, you can't stand on our property and operate a drone,
mm-hmm.
but a drone can fly over the property.
Actually, they can't. They can take off and land.
I've checked it. I've checked this. they can
to fly over the battlefield.
Yes.
To fly over the airspace of
so
Gettysburg National
Yes.
Military Park.
I asked,
That's news.
Pam.
That's news to me.
So I could stand across the Tawnytown Road from Little Round Top on some private property, send my drone up and over, and that's technically okay. It's not recommended. They request you don't do it. It's not a wise decision. I was sitting up on Little Round Top the other day, and this is why I asked about the phone number, because I'm sitting up there and I'm talking to a few adoring fans, and and I hear this demonic, and I look behind me, and there's little things looking at us,
Right.
and
Did that interrupt your visit?
It certainly did.
Now you know why they're not supposed to be in here.
Oh, I know. And I'm not saying they should be, because it's going to be drone hell if everybody's flying drones. But my point about the reason I'm bringing that up is not because of the drone itself, but because the park is saying what activity you can do by standing on the land, when standing on the land. So if the park didn't want this to look recreational, for example, we were talking before, maybe this is a better example than the drone thing. Hunting. You can have a valid PA hunting license, but you can't go hunting in Gettysburg National Military Park.
Correct.
So there are valid state licenses that the park does not honor.
Right.
Okay. So somewhere down the line, unless Lake Crawford is removed, the beaver dams are removed and it turns back to a stream, and there's not something inviting, because it's beautiful. I sat on a boulder one spring afternoon this year when it was like one of the first nice days we had. And I'm team Mozart. I'm not team beaver, but I will say this. It is pleasant sitting on the shores of Lake Crawford on a boulder on a nice day. You're looking at the herons and, all the other little creatures running around. And you're like, this is nice. So it's an inviting place. That guy, the other single people I've seen out there fishing, they're not going to be the only ones. And sooner or later, there's going to be, hey guys, let's start our own fishing club and go fish in Lake Crawford, and maybe we'll catch a historic fish. Your thoughts?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. Because under the circumstances, what rules and regulations we're following are the rules and regulations of the state of Pennsylvania as far as waterways and the act of fishing.
Right. And it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised to find out that, I guess is really my point. I was very surprised to find out that was a legal activity there in the park. But okay. So for now it's legal. And we'll see. What about ice skating? In the winter, if that freezes over, somebody brings their skates. Are you allowed to ice skate in the park?
That would probably be the same thing as the recreation.
Like rollerblading.
Rollerblading and so forth.
But is it specifically mentioned in the compendium? I don't remember.
I don't think it is, because I don't know if we've had a situation where we've had to cross that.
Yeah.
That any body of water in the form of a pond, like what the Beavers have created there around Plum Run, we haven't really dealt with a body of water that is frozen, nor has it been cold enough anytime recently.
We really haven't had ice
to have a hard enough freeze that would make a body of water like that safe to do anything like that. So there would be another issue. Never mind that the ice skating would kind of fit into the rollerblading recreation element. So it's not, as far as I know, it's not in the superintendent's compendium, because we haven't had that issue in the past.
All right. Well, so that makes sense. And I'm glad you cleared up the whole thing about the fishing, because somebody, like I said, somebody did in the comments section explain very quickly after I posted the video, a killjoy. We all just wanted a bitch. And this person came in and just ruined the fun by being correct. And we don't like that. Okay. Within the first 5 minutes of a video being up. Come on, people.
That's not how you do a
No, it
video
isn't. No, it isn't. But
better luck next time, Matt. You get them next time.
Thank you. Next time I'll find somebody flying a kite or something,
you go.
I'll really get them. Let's go to a voicemail from Eric Houston, who is a listener all the way from, ironically, Pittsburgh and not Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But here's his question.
This is Eric Houston. I was calling with a question for Jason Martz for today's call or recording. I am, unfortunately, not able to listen, as I would
Nobody
normally
cares,
be
Eric.
listening live, but I'm going to a roundtable meeting, and at that roundtable, they are very interested in the 11th Pennsylvania. And it just so happens that I saw the other day an image that it looked like some maintenance work was being done to the 11th Pennsylvania monument. So I was wondering if Jason would be able to comment on what that maintenance is, if there are any plans for that monument, or if it's just a short-term touch-up around the monument. Thank you for the time and consideration. Have a great day.
Okay.
All right, 11th Pennsylvania. What do we know about the work being done on the 11th Pennsylvania? I could tell you what I know, which is nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look it up.
All right, Jason's looking up. Somebody asked in the comments section to repeat the phone number of the police, park police. 717-334-0909. Go ahead.
I know exactly what that is.
All right, he knows exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen, and now you will in a second.
So the 11th Pennsylvania is the monument, First Ace Field, just down from the Oak Ridge Observation Tower, with everyone's favorite little dog.
Right.
Sally. And around the 11th Pennsylvania monument is a mound of dirt that comes up to the base of the monument. And over time, because of the interest in Sally, that side of the monument gets worn down very quickly, and typically over just even maybe 2 or 3 years max. That mound of earth needs to be addressed because the mound is actually part of the monument, believe it or not. So what we're doing park-wide, or at least in certain sections, certain neighborhoods, if you will, of the park, working on monument mounds.
So, and you say the mound is part of the monument.
Yes.
Meaning what? That is there monument under or within the mound?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's built up around the base of the, it's not that the base, or that's the, and I think most people know this. I hope most people know this. The monument is not sitting on a pile of dirt. The pile of dirt is pushed up around the base of the monument.
Yeah, in these cases, the mounds of dirt that kind of come up to what would visually be the base of the monument, those mounds are typically covering up unsightly, we'll call it, foundation work. So just like the basement of your house,
it's dirt up around.
Typically, it's kind of like that. But in certain cases, as you know, all over the battlefield, there are monuments that are cut into boulders, and the monuments sit within a niche.
Right.
A niche.
I like niche. Yeah.
Within the boulder. So the boulder is the foundation. In some cases, the mound of earth is then kind of covering up the construction, if you will, the unsightly part,
the non-artistic
of the
part,
foundation.
So
that's why you're not going to see them on every single monument, because that's not how they were built.
And then some of them, like the 44th New York, was built on fill. Like that's propped up.
Right.
Yeah.
And its foundation is also buried.
Oh yeah, sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if
so hopefully that answered Eric.
That was Eric. Yes, that was Eric's question.
Thanks for that question, sir.
Let's see. We have somebody. Sorry, somebody's in the middle of being screened, but we don't have time. Oh, it just hung up. Okay, so we had somebody on the phone. Actually, it looked like it was one of our Australian listeners, so you would have been able to talk to somebody from down under.
Wow.
But he chickened out, like he always does.
Well, come back and call us back.
Yeah, call us back, Grant. Come on, don't be a chicken. All right, let me see. Some of the comments here. The Beavers seem to have jurisdiction over the waterways in the park. The Beavers. So everybody's saying, what about the Beavers? What about the Beavers? What about the Beavers? Anything new on the Beavers? We getting rid of them yet?
No.
They moved on. It's been 3 years we've been here, and they're going to move on.
No.
When are they going to move on?
As far as I know, they're still there.
Who's their travel agent? Grant says Ty says Battlefield. No, that was Matt A. bringing a rod. All right, Matt A. says he's bringing his rod in April. He can't wait. 20 people fishing is okay, but don't dare stand on that rock. Can people scuba for artifacts? So, okay, people are being funny here. So, I mean, I guess that's the thing is I think that there's going to be a point where people, now that they know, I'm sure there might have been people, actually probably not. I think people who are avid fishermen and have a license probably have known all along that you can fish in the park. But I wonder if some might say, oh, I didn't realize you could do that. I didn't realize that there is now a place to fish in Gettysburg National Military Park, Lake Crawford. Let me go and fish there. I just have a hard time believing that if there's 12 people standing around that lake one day, everybody fishing, and it starts, and then their wives are sitting on a blanket, talking to their friends and having the picnic basket. And like, the wives would be told you can't have a picnic here while they're watching their husbands fish. It's just, I don't know. I think they're going to have to rewrite the compendium to include fishing. I think that's one of the things they're going to have to do. Just like hunting. That's my
Your 2 cents.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. Just to make it fair. I don't know who it's fair to, but it seems fair, I guess is my point. What major park project is in the pipeline and waiting on funding? Anything big coming up that we might be waiting for funding on?
The National Cemetery has some funding coming, but that's still a couple years out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's probably the next biggest thing.
That's good. So go into that a little bit, because that's going to be interesting.
So yeah, a lot of what's in the cemetery as far as the infrastructure is dated. So some of that stuff just simply needs to be swapped out, removed, kind of like the paving stuff that has been taking place, which is almost done. By the way, we can circle back to that.
I drove on Culp's Hill yesterday since they paved it, and it feels very nice and smooth underneath.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
They did a nice job.
Absolutely.
I got that, and that brings up another question that I just thought of. Okay, I've noticed this for a while now. First, when Little Round Top was closed, they put them up. I'm sure they put them up numerous times before then for various reasons. But I first noticed them on Hawks Ridge, on that bend there by the U.S. Regulars monuments, the orange rope, so that nobody parks on the side of the road. The idea there being they didn't want people congregating there, I guess, to look at Little Round Top, and kind of wearing that up there. And also you got too many people there. It's a tight bend. You got buses. It's just a big mess. So there's just no parking, and that makes sense. I noticed that all up where they just paved on Culp's Hill, that rope is there. Why?
Same reason.
Is it ever going to come down, or is it okay?
Oh, yeah.
So is it just because the gravel is new and needs to settle or something? Or okay.
So one of the things that happened throughout last year, most of the battlefield was paved. A heavy portion of the battlefield was paved last year. And along the edges is this kind of gravel and dirt mix. And eventually it kind of settles in, grass starts popping up through, and it becomes something that you can mow. But it's also something that, because Gettysburg roads are what they are, historically speaking, and just the human nature, that what winds up happening is that even though the roads in many cases are more than capable and more than wide enough for people to park on the road, keeping all four wheels on the pavement, they will kind of move off to the right, maybe 3 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, something like that, because they feel that they need to give extra space to passing vehicles as they're parked in certain locations. You see this a lot on West Confederate Avenue. Yeah. This is pretty common there. So yeah, what what wound up happening
Also,
is
they don't want to
because-
lose their mirrors.
Well, but they're actually wide enough
Yeah.
to not have that happen.
Yeah.
But we didn't put up those posts, the little skinny posts and rope. And sure enough, what happened when West Confederate and Hancock Avenue and all these other ones opened back up again, the visitors, human nature started to creep back in, and they just started pulling off the road. So what we're trying to avoid, and what we added into the contract for this paving company, is for them to put those skinny posts and rope up as a deterrent to keep folks from pulling off the road and disturbing the shoulders.
Yeah. Okay.
Until they get more
established. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you're right. I remember them on Hancock and West Confederate, and they're gone now. They're the ropes.
Yeah.
They're not there anymore. So they do go away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a permanent.
US Ave had them there as well at the Weichert House.
Yeah.
At the intersection. US Ave, Hancock, and Sedgwick.
Yep.
That was there to help folks give some space actually from the horse tours that come through that area. But they're, those are the kinds of things that after a while we can take them down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in many cases, it's just we're giving Mother Nature a little bit of extra time to get settled.
We I want to follow up on last week. We talked about parking on Little Round Top. And how is that going? Has it become more hectic, or is what's the latest on that?
I don't know if anything's really changed. It's still the car parking on the left and bus parking on the right. And, we haven't had a whole lot of buses. There hasn't been a bus season yet.
Yeah.
But there's one coming on the very near horizon, kind of in that October range.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this really starts to work once we actually have a bus season. There's certain times of the year where it's bus after bus after bus after bus, and there aren't any cars.
Yeah.
Or very few cars. And then other times it's the complete opposite. So right now we're dealing with a very heavy car use by the visitors. Here in a month or so, it's going to slack off with car visitors, folks driving around in individual automobiles, and there's going to be a ton of buses. And then come back in March, April, May, when it's field trip season for all the schools, and it's even worse as far as buses are concerned. So
it's a nightmare.
So it depends on what you're seeing and when you're seeing it. So we're not there yet because we haven't had a bus season.
Yeah, you got to have a full year under your belt.
Yeah. We don't have anything to compare it
so
yet.
Same answer as last month. Everything's just kind of wait and see, feel it out.
And one of the things that we would definitely like to bring folks' attention to is that there is auxiliary parking outside of the summit of Little Round Top.
Have you seen the age of most of the people that come here?
No, I understand that, but if you know that you're going to go hiking, and you've got a group, your husband, wife, buddies, whatever, and you're just out hiking, and you know that you're going to go to Little Round Top, don't go to the summit. Just to park. Just go one of the other many locations and use these new trails. I mean, we put those new trails in.
Yeah.
We put these new trails in for you, okay?
Right.
But no, in all seriousness, take advantage of the trails that now have essentially trailheads,
right?
Where you can park at all these other locations and hike into the heart of Little Round Top from all different directions.
That's true, and I have to say it is much easier to walk up these trails than the rough trails that we used to have. Yeah. When we had the ribbon cutting ceremony, I went down there. And I was like, oh, man, I have to park at the bottom of the hill and walk, lazy. And so I park at that gravel lot on the corner of Wheatfield Road. And there's the trailhead, the new trail. And I walk up it. And it was almost like the aggregate stuff kind of does half the work for you. Like you got a good grip.
Yeah.
So you're not slipping. It's easier to walk up the hill.
Yep.
And the grade isn't bad. And then, you just walk up, there's sidewalks on the road now. There's a crosswalk. You get over. It's a lot easier to get up there.
Was it welcoming?
Oh, yeah, no, it was definitely welcoming. If I were a first-time visitor here, it would make a lot of sense to me. I would feel very much at home. Maybe not at home. I would feel very confident that I can figure out where I'm going to go. Right. In the old way, I don't know if I would have really gotten that. But I had
and that was completely understandable.
Yeah.
The way it was before.
But I had been coming here for so long that I don't remember the first time I went on Little Round Top, so I couldn't tell you what my thoughts of it were. I'm not the guy. Like, I avoid the crosswalks. I just jaywalk. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think in terms of where are the lines for me to stay into. I'm not that guy. So those things never mattered to me. But I know that there are people that matters too. And so if I'm that type of person, I would feel very safe, very comfortable on the new and improved Little Round Top for sure. And when I told you, when there was somebody flying that drone, I was standing up by the 44th New York, and I was talking to 3 other people. It was a beautiful day, and we were just standing there talking. Enjoyable conversation. That railing was great because, I got sick of standing. I was leaning up on the railing. I was like, yeah, this isn't bad at all. I felt comfortable underfoot. It was a level pathway that I was on. And not only that, one of the guys I was talking to was in a wheelchair. And I don't recall ever seeing, I don't think you would have been able to get around the 44th New York in a wheelchair. Is that right? Yeah. Beforehand, yeah.
That was, I don't want to say it was impossible, but it really was never meant for that.
Right.
And any average visitor wouldn't think.
An enterprise or an adventurous person in a wheelchair could probably do it, but
even then,
this
really
guy
wasn't.
was adventurous. He had it was the coolest thing. I'd never seen it before. It was very low to the ground, and it was actually some kind of like gaming chair, and you could put
like what I'm sitting on.
No, like no. He called it a gaming chair, but it's really low to the ground, and he's like my height, right? But it was really low to the ground. And it had these joysticks, and that's how he moved. But also there were buttons on the joysticks, and he said you could put, I forget what he said, it was like either like little rubber balls or something in here and shoot it at kids. And so he's like, this isn't my normal wheelchair, but it's easier to get around certain places with this thing. I thought it was cool. I'm like, give me your phone number. You're like one of the coolest people I know.
Right, seriously.
Yeah. No,
it kind of sounds like a James Bond wheelchair.
No, it was really fascinating.
With the buttons and things that you can shoot it.
It's like, get out of my way. Pew, 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 pew.
Pow, pow.
Yeah, he was very interesting. And we stood there and talked for like an hour, and then the drone came by. Right. And here's the one thing I don't like about the new paths. It wasn't easy to pick up a rock to throw with the drone. There weren't any. And the closest one for me to get to, I would have had to gone past the stay on the path sign. And so I stood there and I waved my fist like an old man. Get out of here!
Get off my lawn!
Get off my lawn! Get off my airspace!
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really annoying.
Well,
but
I'm glad though to hear that you, both you personally and you as a visitor talking to other visitors, are having that kind of experience, because those are the hopes that we were having.
Yeah. No, it's good
during all of this planning in an effort to provide opportunities for visitors who maybe under normal circumstances never had that chance before. Yeah. They do now. Yeah. No, they do. One thing, you mentioned the cemetery before, and I meant to ask you, and then we'll let you go. The project, you're talking about some things that are outdated or whatever that need to change or go. Are they getting rid of the evergreens that block our view, or some of them? Potentially. It depends. What we're trying to do is go back to the original Saunders plan.
Yeah.
So if the Saunders plan called for a tree here, then that's what we're going to try to go do. If there's a hedge here, we're going to try to go back to that. If you're walking on the upper pathway, and there's an alley, do you know what that is?
No.
That's the term for the kind of the pretty trees being planted on both sides.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If
like staggered.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
It's the same thing if you were driving into Eisenhower National Historic Site from Millerstown Road.
Okay.
The alley. That's that term. It's a French term, I think, for fancy trees.
Okay.
Line of fancy trees.
Okay.
Yeah. So certain things have become overgrown.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily part of the plan. Maybe things were planted after the fact. And yeah, the view shed is certainly one of the things that makes Cemetery Hill so important to the battle.
Exactly.
So does the Saunders plan kind of fit that perspective? So it's I'm not entirely sure that I have all the information to give, but it's things like that. And a lot of it is the infrastructure that just, quite frankly, needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Now, so the Saunders plan, because I know that the now when you walk through the Civil War graves, the stones are flush with the ground.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the original case. They were 18 inches above the ground.
Yeah, 16 or 18 inches. Yeah.
So there's 18 inches or so of fill.
Right.
And I thought I had heard that part of the plan was to return it to that appearance. Is that right?
Correct.
Oh, so that'd be interesting. That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not raising anything, but we're lowering ultimately the ground around all of those stones, so that they would in fact be 16 to 18 inches, I think is that idea.
Remember when it was 2 years ago, I believe, I forget the guy's name, but he's the guy that figured out where Lincoln was during the Gettysburg Address. Did you have you seen his?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the audience for that.
Okay. So remember how he was saying that, he was matching up photographs with, known structures and things like that. But they had this one problem with the view from, I guess, the Tawnytown Road. Or no. But yeah, like around like Tommy's Pizza, like that area there, I think. Okay. And he was saying every time we would overlay it, the people were like not lining up. And I remember sitting in the audience so proud of myself, and I go, that's because it was lower then. Mm-hmm. And then finally he said that they figured that out, and I was like, oh damn. I thought he was going to say, we just can't, we're stumped by this. And I wanted to raise my hand and save the day, but never got to do it. So I think that's cool though, that they'll do that. I'd like to see what it was supposed to look like. When did they add the fill?
I think that was a CCC project back in the 1930s.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that.
Why? Easier to mow?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that had something to do with it.
It's going to be harder to mow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We don't have to do
but
it, right?
if it brings it back to some more of its historic accuracy, we're certainly for that.
I do too, or I am too. What about the view of Benner's Hill to Cemetery Hill? Can anything be done about the trees? Okay, so what did you say? Benner's Hill to Cemetery Hill.
Benner's Hill to Cemetery Hill.
Yeah, Culp's Hill too. So those trees, are those park trees?
No,
that's private property.
I think immediately, what would that be?
Well, there's
kind of southwest. I mean, you're getting off of you're getting outside the park boundary, and that's private land.
So there's Benner's Hill is kind of an island, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as property lines go.
Yeah.
So there's not a contiguous piece of land between Benner's Hill and Culp's and Cemetery Hill.
Right. So for instance, the distance between Benner's Hill
or parkland
and let's say Rock Creek.
Okay.
We own very little of that space. So however long that is that a quarter mile, half mile?
Something like
whatever.
I don't even think it's that.
We don't own any of that.
So when you're coming up the Hanover Road and before you get to Benner's Hills turn,
Yes.
right at the foot of the hill,
Yes.
there's like a gravel access road.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a park road or is that somebody's driveway?
I'd have to look at the map.
Yeah, I never could tell. I've seen park service vehicles there, but I've also seen non-park service
I think
vehicles.
it is, but not very far back.
Okay. Okay. So they have like, what do they call that? An easement or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. I think at least some of that is ours, but where the park boundary is in that space between the foot of Benner's Hill and the where Rock Creek is in the swale, and then going up the hill, we don't own very much of that.
So to answer, who was that? Was that Mark? To answer Mark's question, then, those trees. If you're going to do anything about those trees, you'd have to actually appeal to the property owner to do that. Yeah. Okay. And all right, let me see if there's anything else there. No. What about pushing the trees back on the south side of Little Round Top? Pushing the trees back. Well, here. So let me kind of just take that idea and ask a broader question. I don't know how many years ago. I want to say 20-ish years ago, they started clearing woods and tree lines and things like that back to the 1863 appearance as best you can, of course. That seems to be growing back. And I'd heard, I don't remember if it was from you on last month's show or if I had heard somebody else just saying this, is that when they did that, when they decided they were going to do it and they got the approval or whatever they had to do to get it and maybe money in the budget to start it, there wasn't any endowment to continue it. Mm-hmm. And so now it's becoming harder to maintain. Is that accurate or?
Within reason, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of the things that the Gettysburg Foundation has been helping us with is thinking ahead. Mm-hmm. So for instance, the Culp's Hill clearing, that was done a couple years back.
Yeah,
the one that you're talking about, that the view shed really between Little Round Top all the way out to the Alabama Monument. You know, that whole area was largely clear cut.
Yeah, it's great.
And one of the other things that we've been able to do in more recent time is the prescribed fire. Yeah. And we're hoping to get back into that
those are fun.
This coming spring. But COVID put a stop to that. And there was also some lengthy paperwork that had to be dealt with across, and this was service wide. This wasn't just us, but we think we've got everything, all the boxes are checked now, and we can kind of get back into that.
Did you have to get a permit?
Did we have to get a
permit? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
Oh.
No, it's not. We didn't have to get a permit. No, it's just in the way that prescribed fire interacts with wildlife.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to kill the vole or something like that.
So there's certain things that, and again, this was across the entire National Park Service, where prescribed fire was basically shelved for a little bit until everybody was able to meet all the necessary criteria and did all the necessary studies and so forth. So we're hoping to get back into that this spring. But that's another way to keep those areas clear where you don't have to take in any kind of machinery, and it's done in a day. And it's done naturally, which is actually good because it winds up killing off non-native species, and it provides the opportunity for native species to grab a hold and then flourish. So when you're looking at prescribed fire across the entirety of the battlefield, which is, I think we have 5 or 6 different plots that are considered the space where it's deemed appropriate to
I didn't know that. I always thought it was just Little Round Top. Where are the other spots?
So we have, this would be the west side of Little Round Top.
Okay.
You're familiar with.
West side.
The just north of Wheatfield Road is Munshower Field.
Oh, yeah.
And Munshower runs from Wheatfield Road up to U.S. Avenue, kind of along Sedgwick. There's one. Another one is basically triangular field down to Slider and up to
Good.
Bushman.
All the places I would love to see
Yep.
cleared away. Okay.
The
going.
other one is Culp's Hill around kind of the center point. So kind of from Spangler Spring up through the middle.
Okay.
Um,
That big field that goes out to the Baltimore Pike that used to be all nice and clear. Now it's grown up. Well, so when you're coming in off the Baltimore Pike on Colgrove, right, and to your left,
Yes.
that big wide open field.
yes,
That's also a prescribed burn area?
it might be.
I hope so.
It might be.
love to see that go.
One of the issues that we've had with, and one of the other ones is also at, right across from the old Mulligan McDuffers. What hill is that?
Powers.
Powers Hill. We were actually getting ready to do Powers Hill when pandemic hit,
Oh, okay.
and that whole thing was shelved.
Uh-huh.
So we were ready to do Powers Hill as well.
Okay.
So one of the issues, though, with some of these locations is its proximity to some of the major roads. So in the case of Baltimore Pike, we have some Culp's Hill stuff. We have some Powers Hill stuff. So there's a lot of coordinating that we would need to do in
Right.
order to do those because of how much traffic is
Okay.
coming up through those areas.
All right.
But yeah, there's we've hit a couple of them multiple times, and some of them just once. But again, we're hoping to get back into that as a way to continue to be able to either through endowments, through physical upkeep, or in some cases something that we can do, and that's the prescribed fire. Now that we're able to get back into it again, so those are ways in which that we can control those open spaces.
Okay.
Yeah. So for a multitude of reasons, pandemic shut it down. We had to go through the process again. All national parks across the system had to go through that. And one of the other issues was that one of the first places that we want to do is Little Round Top, but we couldn't do it last spring because Little Round Top wasn't open.
Yeah, it was closed.
So
Right.
there's only so many people within the park structure to be able to do project A, B, and C,
Yeah.
and we can't get to D. And D maybe would have been a prescribed fire somewhere else in the park, but there was no way we could have pulled that off this past spring because we were still working on Little Round Top.
But now that it's open, if you were to do it next spring,
Mhm.
my question there is, because you have to worry about wildlife and everything like that. Well, what about the wildlife in and around Lake Crawford now?
Mhm.
Like, are they
So-
endangered by that? Because does it
so-
go down to the shores of the lake, the mighty lake?
So one of the things about prescribed fires, we can go off into this tangent if you want. The way prescribed fires work is that they have to be done under a very specific set of circumstances.
Sure.
Okay. It has to be done early enough in the year before the ground has completely dried out. So
Okay.
for instance, if you were to go out and dig in your backyard now in the Gettysburg area, it would be just dry for
Miles.
for miles, all the way down to China. If you were to do this, though, in late winter, early spring, you would have a wet layer at the top, and it might still be frozen underneath.
Okay.
That's perfect for a prescribed fire
Okay.
because the fire then is only going to burn what's on top of the ground
Got it.
because everything is so wet at ground level and down a couple inches before it gets frozen.
It's
None
not-
of that can burn.
So no roots or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a natural time frame for that to happen. That's why you're always going to see us be doing these typically, historically speaking, second week of April.
Yeah. It's still early.
Has been that window for us in the past. But then you also have to have on the day that you are going to do the burn, you have to have a certain humidity within limits for a certain humidity. And you also have to have limits on wind.
Oh,
and
yeah.
wind
That makes
direction.
sense. Yeah.
Because you actually go against the wind. Because you want the fire to fight the wind.
Okay.
Because if the fire goes with the wind, it's a lot harder to keep up with. The wind can actually whip the fire into something that's no longer controllable.
Okay.
So if the wind is coming from the west, You start it in the east,
in the east,
have
and
the
you move
fire
towards the west
and go towards the wind.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
it
it doesn't spread.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
So it's hence the term a controlled or prescribed burn or fire. Yeah.
There's a lot to this stuff.
There's a lot to it.
It's not just throwing a match in the dry grass.
It's really not.
No.
Strangely enough, that's not how that works. Kind of in the same way that law enforcement investigations take longer than an hour. But no, there's really a science behind it.
Yeah.
And what winds up happening is, to go back to your question, fire doesn't like water.
Right.
You may have heard that.
I've heard that.
You may have heard that. So the closer the fire gets to a body of water, let's say Plum Run, or the maybe 10, 20 feet out on either bank of Plum Run, there's no fire.
Right.
It can't. I mean,
Sure.
It reaches the limit where it's just too wet and it won't burn.
I'll have you know that I sent in applications for our September and October Get Out of the Car tours.
Yeah.
Now, it's cutting a little close for September. We'll see. But I think, I'm more than enough time for October. My will is broken, Jason. I am caving to the man. I am doing what I have to do in order to bring history to the masses.
You're a good man.
I don't feel like a good man, Jason. I feel like a man who has betrayed his self. And
is there a tissue I can around here?
No, but there is a very small violin in that bookshelf over there.
A small violin, tissue.
No. So we've done that. We've fallen and we've submitted the paperwork. Here's what can I give you a little homework assignment? Because I'd like to talk about this next time, but I need you to do some homework.
Do I need to write this down?
I'll write it for you. Okay.
Yeah, go.
I want you to do some research into the Explore Act.
The Explore Act.
Yes, it is currently in the Senate. And I'd like to know, I mean, it's not law. It could become law, and I know the short answer is going to be, if it's the law, that's what we're going to do. But I'll put it like this. Look into it, find out what information you can, and I'm just curious to know what your 2 cents or the park's 2 cents would be on that thing if it were to go through as it's currently written.
Okay. I can give you something right now.
Okay.
So just
Do I
as...
need the bleep button?
No, not at all.
Good.
So just as we can't comment on ongoing investigations...
Oh, you can't comment on...
We can't comment on pending legislation.
Okay. Can you comment on laws?
If it's a full-blown law and it's something that we're working off of, then sure. But pending legislation...
Why not? So it looks like you're campaigning?
It would be looking like we were campaigning one way or the other, or supporting one way or the other.
Well, then I'm not going to...
Basically playing politics, and the National Park Service is apolitical.
Right. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that next month. We will wait until it's law.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble. But you're not going to do it anyway, so it's not like you would do it just because I asked you. I don't have that power.
You're a nice guy, Matt.
I try.
But
not that nice. All right, listen, folks. We're going to go, and we're going to thank Jason for coming here and answering these questions for us. As always, I look forward to our monthly chats.
Yeah.
I hope we can do it again next month.
And your folks know that I'm basically scheduled to come back here once a month.
I think that I've said that before. Yeah.
Right.
But this is a monthly thing. Are we trying to do it the same day of each month?
I think so.
Okay. It's the first Tuesday of each month.
Tuesday of the month.
I like that's good for me. It works for me. We'll do that.
Yeah, we'll keep going with that.
So you can set your watch to it. And then when Jason and I are sick, you'll go absolutely nuts because you'll be like, what is it, the first Tuesday of the month? Well, we're going to do it next week, guys, because one of us is sick.
Maybe there's a thunderstorm. Sorry.
Right. We have to worry about safety.
Safety. But the last time that we were on, when your computer system wasn't working, there was a wicked storm that day.
There was. We've had some pretty good storms this year. Not quite like the tornado that took out the top of Little Round or Big Round Top, but we've had some pretty good
if your folks want to come back and ask questions and so forth, happy to help as best I can. And if I don't know it, I'll as you say, go home and do a little research and come back next month and try to have an answer for you.
Sure. Very good. That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Jason. You're getting some love in the audience here. People saying thank you. And
thank you, guys.
We will talk to you next time. See you on Thursday. Unless you're a patron, I think I'll see you before Thursday. Nope, that's it. See you on Thursday on AG Today, our regularly scheduled program, when our friend Chris Morano will be on. If you don't know Chris, you'll want to know him. So stick around. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.